You are listening to Let's Talk Trio on podcast. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media accounts.
Thank you all for tuning in to another episode of Let's Talk Trio. In this episode, we have Erick Donlucas, who is the scholar contact for the Community for Excellence. Erick will talk to us about his experiences transitioning from a college student to a professional. Erick is a Trio alum and is ready to share with us about his experiences, not only in college, but being a professional and what that means for him. So coming up, Erick Donlucas in the program. If you would ever like to be featured in Let's Talk Trio, please send us a message through Facebook on Let's Talk Trio, and we can discuss when we can have you on the episode. We are putting out episodes at least once a month, and we are still seeking people who want to be interviewed. While we do have a log and requests for interviews, it's just an exciting opportunity to be able to record all these stories. Listening to these stories makes me reflect on the progress that Trio programs have made. Another thing to bring up is this is episode number 20 for Let's Talk Trio, so we are on our 20th episode, and we could not be more excited. I believe that the podcast continues to grow, and it's showing a lot of momentum, so continue supporting us, continue sharing and telling people about the podcast. I feel like this, overall, it's going to continue growing. Without further ado, please sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Thank you, everybody, for downloading the Let's Talk Trio podcast. In this episode, we have Erick Donlucas, who is joining us. Hey, Erick, how's it going?
Hey, it's going pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good so far. Thank you so much for agreeing to be part of this interview. Your interview has been a long time coming. I kept saying since last semester in the fall of 2018,
that's true.
We should get you to interview. And we didn't actually get to interview till now, summer 2019. So my apologies. Sorry for the delay.
It's all right. I like to keep the anticipation build.
You did. And as you were walking in the room, I kind of felt the anticipation kind of building still. I was like, okay, we need to get the questions. Got to let them know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, Erick, you were a Trio participant and currently work at Colorado State University. So can you, before we get into the warm-up questions and to the actual questions, give the audience a little sense of what type of Trio program you participated in and what your participation in Trio looked like.
Yeah, of course. It was towards the end of my high school time. I was about a junior. Yeah, about a junior when I first was contacted by Talent Search, actually. I'm from Brighton High School.
Okay.
So Bob is my guy.
Bob, oh yeah, Bob, yeah.
So he reached out, he put me out of class and stuff, and then that's how I got into Talent Search. I was able to go to the New York trip, the summer trip with him.
Oh wow, what year was that?
Yeah, all right. Don't make me feel old, right?
I'm sorry.
That was in between my junior and senior year. Let's put it that.
Let's just put it between junior and senior year, says Erick.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after that, I came to CSU with that partnership award from Talent Search. And then as soon as I graduated, I still stayed involved with Trio, and I was a TC, a tutor counselor for Upward Bound. The new Upward Bound 17 summer program. Mm-hmm. And then they extended it for 2 extra weeks, so I helped them to take a group of students to San Diego to do more college visits. So
that's amazing.
It was pretty cool.
That's awesome, Erick. So you landed in Trio through the recruitment of Talent Search, through Bob, who helped you be part of the Trio programs. Was college something you always dreamed about going, or was that kind of in the back of your mind? Tell us a little bit about your thought process.
Actually, I never even knew what college was. I didn't know what college existed. I just thought after high school comes work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know. And then the ACT started coming in. I'm like, okay, what's this for? And then they kind of told me that it's a number, like your test score is just a number. It helps you get into colleges. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I started asking about college. And it was really until the summer program, the summer trip that I went to in New York, when I did all the college visits, where I got to see what college was, and then I did the life program here. I forgot to mention that. I did the life program here at CSU, and I was like, okay, this is what college is. We worked on like resume and application letters and all that stuff. So I started in talent search when I thought about college.
That's amazing. That's awesome. So now we're going to go into the kind of the warm-up questions so that we got a good background about you and your trio experience. I wanted to get into kind of more of the personal and warm-up questions for you.
All right.
So as a professional, you had the opportunity to attend the NASPA conference this last week for first-generation student success. Can you give us a summary of what you liked about the conference or what you learned?
Yeah, it's interesting. I just kind of got thrown in there, but it was pretty awesome. It was my very first conference that I attend that's like a big out-of-state conference like this. Still to this day, there's like a quote that I keep thinking about. I don't remember it verbatim, but it meant like us as universities were failing students. And what they meant by this is how we don't really notice individual students that are struggling or not doing so well, and then we just refer them to so many different resources. And I can see some of that here. Here in some departments, it's more personalized, so it's less than other institutions.
Sure.
But that's the biggest thing that I brought with me. How can I more personalize my experience with each individual student and not refer them to one office and then that office refers them to another office.
Right.
So it's just kind of like, all right, get them direct to the point and get them what they're asking for.
Right on.
But apart from that one, all sessions were pretty good. And I noticed that CSU is actually doing really well in the student success for first-generation students.
I would tend to agree. I think that in some cases, right, CSU is at the forefront of what student initiatives or student success looks like.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little bit of an anecdote about your trip to Orlando? Did you get to do any sort of personal trips to go to Disney World or anything like that?
I didn't go to like Disney World or Universal Studios, but I did do like the Disney Springs, which is just the shops around it, and then City Walk, which is the shops around Universal Studios. I actually went into the Marvel store.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Eric is recalling the moment we all there was three of us, you, myself, and Joseph.
Yeah.
We went to the Marvel store.
I got kind of scared when you took the Infinity Gauntlet. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gone.
So people are going to start fading away from existence. But it was a great trip overall.
It was. I was able to enjoy the nice hot humidity from Orlando and walk around in pretty much a suit. Long sleeve pants. So, but it was a good one. Walking around, get to know a new city. Absolutely. While being around people who are all in the same field.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's important when we network as professionals when we get to know other people from different universities or different institutions and how they contribute and what they're doing for student success. I think the audience also wants to know, as a professional, you must have been to several conferences. Is this your first major one, or have you been to others?
It's my first major one. I have been to a few very little smaller conferences. I guess the next big one is the one in Denver, Keeping the Dream Alive.
Okay.
Other than that, all of them have just been smaller conferences for CSU staff here at CSU.
Right on.
Yeah.
So I have a follow-up question for you regarding conferences and all of that. This whole idea of first generation students and TRIO being kind of born out of that to address first generation low-income students. Why do you think it's still important to serve first generation students? Why is that important?
The first thing that comes to mind when I hear this is equity versus equality. Mm-hmm. I think it's important to serve these first generation students because they don't get the same training in a way, like the training to come into college as not non-first generation students, so like continuing gen students. Is that how you say it?
Oh yeah. Good.
I'm not sure how you say it.
Yeah, I don't know how to for the students that have parents that graduated from college and then they so the second generation or third generation students that in the process.
They usually have a parent to go to for questions about like application or major changes or any questions that most of our first generation students come to us. So I feel like it's so important to narrow that gap, and would they all have someone to go to for the questions that they need.
Absolutely. I think it's very important that what you just addressed is really trying to help recruit, retain, and help those students succeed as they go through college. It's very vital. I think that sometimes some administrations overlook that, and they don't see the powerful impact that TRIO makes on first generation. So I have to apologize, Erick, because we didn't even get to your title of what you do here. Can you tell us, what do you do at Colorado State?
Yeah, my title is Scholar Success Specialist, and my main role is to be a scholar contact for a group of students. Every Scholar Success Specialist has different scholarships that they work with. My specific one is the First Generation Award.
Oh, right on.
And
Perfect.
I have a group of students that are receiving the Denver Scholarship Foundation.
Okay. And so your job, it entails what exactly? As you meet with the students, what do you do? What do you cover?
We pretty much just meet with the students to make sure they are meeting the requirements. That's the main reason of the one-on-one. And then in these 1 hour conversations that we have, it's just a one-on-one conversation. We just talk about anything that has happened in school, in classes, or outside of school, families, personal living situations, pretty much anything that is going on with the student that can affect them in their academics. We talk about it. If there's like nothing to talk about and you want to talk about Netflix, we talk about Netflix or anything like that.
Yeah. So your meetings are really open to pretty much any topic, but really the meat of it is trying to hold students accountable to their goals of meeting the scholarship requirement.
That's correct.
And you serving first generation students, that really speaks to also the TRIO programs as well. Do you get a lot of TRIO students that go through your office?
Yeah, actually, all of them.
All of them. Wow.
I was going to say most, but I'm pretty confident it's all TRIO students that come to CSU will be in the Community for Excellence. So I won't see all of them, but they will all be in the Community for Excellence because every TRIO program has a partnership with CSU, and then it is housed in the Community for Excellence.
Okay, and that's the department you work for, the Community for Excellence. Yeah. Right on. So you being their scholar contact or scholarship contact, you're mentoring them through all of this. What has been the most rewarding part of your job so far?
I think the success stories that I hear.
Okay.
I had one student who I followed up after graduation, and she was still thanking me and saying thank you for all your help even after she graduated, and now she's working and like enjoying life.
That's good.
After graduation. So those are what I enjoy the most, is like, okay, I'm actually doing something here. Yeah.
And how long have you been in the position here, Erick?
So I've been working with the First Generation Award for 2 semesters already. So I just started in August of this past year. But it was 2 different like position titles, but same role.
Same role.
Yeah.
Okay. And what would you say has been some of your challenges here at Colorado State as a scholar contact and working for the Community for Excellence?
Yeah, since I'm kind of new, getting all the students to know me and getting the students to come in and kind of share what their goals and their struggles. Sometimes they don't want to share all this information with someone new.
Absolutely. I think just based on some of my experiences, students have a hard time communicating their challenges and communicating their struggles. Yeah. It's not until after the mid-semester that they start going, oh, I should have talked to somebody about this before. So yeah.
And when it's someone new, they're less inclined to do so. So that was my struggle to build that rapport.
So your success and your challenges at CSU kind of come up with, it's still student-centered. Can you tell us a little bit about what you look forward to at CSU? Like, as you continue being the scholar contact, what is something that keeps drawing you to CSU?
apart from the students, because that's my main role here is just to serve the students and be here with the students.
Yeah.
Apart from the students, the atmosphere that I work with, even colleagues outside of my unit, they're all willing to help and support each other, or me. They're all willing to support me. Like, I can walk over to undeclared advising and ask questions, or health professions, and they always answer and help me, because all of our goals are pretty much the same, which is to serve students. So I think the atmosphere that I work with and my colleagues really get me here.
Is this your first professional position?
It is, yes.
Oh, wow. So
CSU. As soon as I graduated, I've been working at CSU.
Right on. I think that's amazing when a university can recruit its own talent back into the home institution, because they value that student and they want to make them into a professional and see them flourish and grow. So that's amazing. Good on you, Eric. Good job.
Yeah, thanks.
What other aspirations do you have? I mean, aside from working at Colorado State University, do you do anything outside of your position that helps you maintain balance in your life?
I mean, I kind of enjoy working here, and most of the things I do outside of work are still related to CSU. I want to plan a cultural immersion trip with students, and I mean, that's here. But if it's completely out of it, like completely out of CSU, like I need to shut off. I like to just wash my cars, listen to music.
Right on.
Maybe watch some Netflix. I'm not really watching any specific show right now, but just kind of browse around, or just hang out with my siblings.
All right, on. So I'm going to throw kind of a curveball question, because I went personal. Now I'm going to go back to your professional position.
All right.
How do you engage students? What do you do to connect with them?
In what capacity? Is it my one-on-one capacity? Is it my social events that I create, or
all of them? Let's go with all of them.
All of them. First, I'd just like to introduce myself. This is what I did my first year here, because this is the first time I was meeting them. So they're like, okay, who is this stranger? And like, why am I going to share everything? So I like to introduce myself, kind of break the ice a little bit for them. Share myself. Like, share a little bit about my family, where I'm from. And then I gave them a little bit of background on why I was talking to them. Like you probably met with this person before. I'm kind of in the place of that person right now. And then I just kind of leave it open for whatever they want to share. And then based on what they share is where I follow up with questions, and I just kind of dive deeper into that conversation. Yeah. That's more on the one-on-one. And then for social events, it's a lot more casual, a lot less formal. I just say, like, where's everyone from? What's your favorite type of food? Right. Kind of like easy questions like that. So
kind of those nice warm-up questions where students are able to connect with you on various levels and really figure you out while you're figuring them out. Mm-hmm. That's a good way of engagement, I think. That's really good to kind of break the ice that way. Yeah. You being a TRIO participant gives you also an edge with first-generation students, right?
It does. Almost all of them. I'm not going to say all of them because I'm not too sure. But almost all of my one-on-one conversation, I did say I'm a first-generation student as well. Uh-huh. And that's just something like, okay, that's something we have in common. It's a good starting point, and then Absolutely. They say, oh, I'm a first-generation too. So, and then we build it off of that. So it does help, like, start the conversation. Yeah. And then I have noticed that a lot of the struggles are similar. Mm-hmm. They're not all the same. We all have a few different stories and experiences, but most of our struggles are the same. And then you can kind of see their face like light up and like their eyes widen when they see, like, okay, this is an advisor working at CSU who was in the same boat as me. Like, okay, I can do this, kind of like that kind of sensation. Yeah. Their shoulders kind of lower a little bit, like they're more relaxed. So
that's good. So what are some of those barriers or challenges that you're noticing with students? What is something that's getting in the way of their success, or if not in their success, just something that they view as a challenge?
I have met with a lot of students who say they don't want to ask for help. They don't want to go to office hours.
Oh, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, they just I don't know if they're scared. I don't want to like put words in their mouth, but not asking for help is one of a common trend, I guess, that I've seen.
Yeah.
And then as they're talking to me about where they're struggling, they're not really asking for help, they're not asking for help directly. But then I'm like, okay, how about I connect you with this person? And then I would connect them via email. And then the professor or staff or faculty that I connect them with reaches to them. And then I've had the students come back and be like, okay, thank you, that really actually helped. Like,
oh, wow, yeah.
One student in particular came back and said, yeah, I don't really like to ask for help because I believe I can do this all on my own. And then he's like, but I just noticed that sometimes I can't. So that's the biggest one.
I think you hit a very good point there, that first-generation students struggle to ask for help because there is a sense of pride that I've gotten this far without help or without support. I can keep doing it on my own.
Yeah.
And I think part of us as professionals, we have to demystify that, right? We didn't get, you and I as professionals, we didn't get this far without the help.
Yeah.
There have been people that played critical roles in our lives to help make that happen.
That's correct, yeah.
So with asking for help, any other challenges you feel like you're noticing a pattern with first-generation students?
I mean, income's always going to be one. That's just, I mean, I work in a scholarship office, so we're at least helping a little bit, but it's not something we can just, all right, here's $1,000, go have fun. So other than financial, I've had students struggling with food, so good thing we have a food pantry here at the stadium that I can just walk them over to.
Yeah, like, hey, food.
So a lot of finances.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in a perfect world, we would give all the money in the world to students to go to college and do all that stuff, right? That would be amazing. What have been some of your takeaways in your position? What have been some critical things that you learned, and what are the things that you wish either can be improved upon or done differently?
Yeah, good question. Something I learned, I kind of learned it kind of the hard way, I guess, is as a new one, and I'm always going to have new students every year because the incoming students, I can't assume they know who I am.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, hey, so how are you doing in class? They're very, like, reserved and stuff. So that's how I learned. And when I said earlier how I start the conversations, that's because of that. So that was hard because it was hard to build that rapport right away, especially when they had a previous scholar contact before me.
Yeah.
So that was one. That was a little bit hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right on. As you continue growing in your field and you're going through your professional progress here at CSU, what are some areas of knowledge that you wish you could learn more about?
Honestly, everything.
Everything.
We could always be I think I could always be learning about everything that I work with. I'm constantly asking some of my colleagues about requirements for their scholarships that they work with. Like, I don't know about all the scholarships that we work with, so some of that, the policies around our undocumented students are constantly changing.
Yeah,
so I could always be learning more about that.
And then I don't know if you read the report or a news article that came out that the Supreme Court is now going to take DACA on for next year as part of their case. They're going to make a decision on that.
And it's going to change again.
It's going to change again, yeah.
So we could always be learning about that. So honestly, throw as much information to me as can, and I'll try to retain as much as I can. Yeah.
I think that's vital for professionals to be open to learning and continuing evolving. I think, and I don't know if this is your experience, but when things get too static, it's too predictable. And when things are a little bit more dynamic, it provides an area for growth.
Yeah. And you can personalize more.
Absolutely.
The resources or solutions that students are seeking, because every student is going to come with their own unique set of challenges. So
absolutely. So Erick, going back to TRIO, because you serve so many first-generation students and you go through that process of being their scholar contact and making sure that they're following all their goals and objectives to continue receiving the scholarship. Being a TRIO student also comes with its own set of challenges. Being a first generation, being low income, a TRIO student really has no foundation or no resource to connect to college, aside from campus visits, what would be some advice that you would give a TRIO student if they were first time coming to meet you, or maybe even trying to look at CSU or a different university to connect?
I'm not too sure on what advice, but more of something to keep in the back of your head kind of thing. Recently, maybe 1 or 2 months ago, I was, even to this day, telling my supervisor that I felt like I didn't belong here. I was like, I don't know if this job is for me, because like it's just something I would never think about, like being here at university, like working at a university. Like I didn't even know what college was. Now I'm working for one. It's like, so
you made a huge leap.
Yeah. So I think something to keep in the back of their mind is that you belong where you're at, and if you want to go somewhere, or if the opportunity comes to be someone, like do it, and you belong there. Like you've earned your spot where you're at, and just keep going.
I think that's a very important point that you just brought up, and again, you keep making great points. That sense of validation when students arrive on campus, I think the intimidation factor starts setting in, and then you feel what's that the term called, imposter syndrome? Yeah. That whether or not you belong at a college, you're saying validate that student's experience of belonging here.
Yeah. Yeah, because, or even once they graduate, it's like, okay, you belong. Go get that job or pursue that master's degree or something like that. Like,
so you also spoke a little bit about not belonging at a university position, like working as a staff member. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I don't want to get too in depth, because then.
But you were a first generation TRIO student working as a staff member now.
That's correct. So I believe it's just that's the only reason why I didn't feel like I belonged. I thought I was going to be working construction, or kind of going back to where I was working every summer, which is in the company with my dad. Yeah. My dad works at a construction company, and I was going to work right with him and move my way up. I was like, okay, now I got a degree, I'm going to just work my way up. But I'm in a completely different field now.
Yeah. You're working with students. It's a completely different mindset over here, right?
Yeah.
And I can relate to your experiences, because I a long time ago had similar thoughts. My dad worked for a construction company. My dad encouraged us to go into the construction company to work with him. And I'm pretty sure you thought the same, was like, there's got to be more, and there's got to be a different way to do this. So can you walk us through that part of your life, and say, so how did you end up coming to college? Like, what finally made you say, I'm going to do it, I'm going to take the dive?
Yeah, coming to college wasn't much of a thought process. I just kind of went with the flow.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Talent Search helped me waive my application fee. I was like, all right, so I'm going to apply. Like, the worst I can say no is, or the worst they can say is no, and then go from there. But I wasn't wasting any money, so I just applied, and I came in. I did my orientation and everything. I'm like, all right, let's just register for classes. I took it one step at a time, and then I graduated. So,
what's the most memorable thing from TRIO that you remember? That either it's a trip or your friendships or anything like that. What is something that sticks out in your mind being a Talent Search TRIO participant?
I think as a student, it would be my trip to New York. It was my first time like leaving on my own. Okay. So I was born in California, so I've only
wait, what part?
Pretty much to California and back. Southern California.
Oh, you were born in Southern California.
Yeah. I was
San Diego?
Born in L.A. and then I lived in San Bernardino or Colton area.
I was born in Los Angeles as well, Norwalk.
So, and then we visit Mexico every now and then, because that's where my family's at. And but New York trip was the first time I left, and like on my own. So seeing all those colleges and trying to picture myself there is like, oh, this is real kind of thing. Like, yeah.
It's a surreal experience when a TRIO student can set foot on a campus and then reflect on that experience and say, I could go here? I could be here.
Yeah, and I applied to one of them that we visited, and I got accepted, but it was just too much.
Yeah. As is the case with a lot of colleges, right? It just becomes too much.
And then my most memorable memory or experience with TRIO as a staff was working as a TC, and some of the students just say they miss me, or
That's nice.
I was impactful or stuff like
Yeah.
that. Those are pretty good
Yeah.
memories. Yeah.
That's really cool when former students can come back and say, "Hey, you really made an impact on my life.
Yeah.
I recall you doing this for me." That's amazing.
Yeah, some of them reached out and see if I can help them with the application,
that's cool.
scholarship application. They're like, "I know you work with scholarships. Can you help me?" I'm like, "Sure, I can help you out." So
Yeah, that's awesome. So Erick, it sounds like you went from not knowing a lot about colleges, being a TRIO student, and now you've set foot on campus, graduated with your bachelor's, now working for Community for Excellence. So you're truly a good example of a TRIO student working their way into the system and giving back. Do you feel like that? Like you're kind of giving back in that sense?
Yeah. But like I said before, I still feel like I don't belong, or
you do belong, Erick. You do belong.
And I now know, and I share this with students. Is like we've made it this far, and we can go further.
Yes.
So I do feel like that. I like I mentioned earlier, I like when students see themselves through my experiences, or I see myself through theirs, and we kind of build off of that conversation.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So far in this interview, you've revealed a lot about the inner workings of Community for Excellence, how it works, and what it does. What other services does it provide?
The main, I guess the main service is the mentorship, outside of the scholarship, of course, is the mentorship that there's a scholar contact at any point that they need us. Just email and all of us will find a way to meet with him.
Okay, That's awesome. Do you play a role in any way for orientation and transition programs to help students kind of transition as they're going in, or is that a role that is separate?
Briefly, we do host welcome dinners towards the end of day one of orientation. We host an orientation dinner for all C4E students, and we talk to them about what the Community for Excellence is, and we introduce a small portion of our staff. Yeah.
Okay. We are now about 45 minutes into our interview, Erick, and I just want to say again how grateful I am that you were able to come in and talk about your experience and
finally
we got to get together. But I do want to have couple personal questions for you if you're open to answering them. Can you talk to us a little bit about your experience as a CSU student?
Yeah, where do I begin?
Start at the beginning.
So Key Communities is another community that a lot of TRIO students go through. So I was part of that. My first year, it wasn't the greatest experience.
Why?
I think it was just my cluster. It just wasn't very united, I guess. It wasn't very united. Like they didn't stick together very much.
Okay.
They didn't hang out at all. There was really no cluster activities, which is the like social events or anything.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got called to see if I wanted to be key mentors, and I did it, and that's when I started being involved. I became a key mentor. I went to Alt Break with Slice. I became a Slice Alt Break leader, site leader, and that's when I kind of got a passion for talking to students and pushing them to their limits where they've their comfort zone, like pushing them out of their comfort zone and stuff like that. So
that's amazing.
It was a good experience.
Awesome. And as your time at CSU was winding down, were you already thinking like, I'm going to work for CSU, or were you picturing somewhere else?
Actually, I was thinking of going back to construction.
Were you really?
Yeah, but I became a TC. Mm-hmm. That's because they were really needing a person, and I was like, hey, I'll do it. So I did it, and then right after that was just a summer program, so I knew it was coming to an end, and I said, okay, it'll delay my time to apply for jobs. And then I didn't apply for any, and then I got a call from C4E. It was like, hey, we just need a semester-long position. Are you interested? And I was like, all right, I'll take it. So there's another part-time. It's like, I'll delay my my time to apply for jobs again. I was like,
Right.
I'll figure it out in December when my term ends. And so yeah, I never really thought about coming to CSU and working. I didn't really have a plan at all.
Oh,
I was just going with it, and I literally took every opportunity I got.
The stars aligned for you to work here, and the university has certainly benefited for that. So you working here has made a huge impact on students, and you continue to do the great work.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank Erick for stopping by the Let's Talk Trio podcast. You can get a hold of Erick by looking him up on the directory at Colorado State University. And again, Erick, thank you so much for being in the program.
Yeah, thank you.
And finally got your interview in, and now we can do a follow-up in 6 months.
All right, we'll do a follow-up.
Fantastic. Again, thank you, Erick, for being part of Let's Talk Trio, and yeah, we'll catch up with you soon. What a great interview with Erick, and talking about his experiences being in the Trio program. So again, a huge shout out to Erick for being on the podcast. Again, if you'd like to be featured on Let's Talk Trio, please reach out to us on Facebook, search Let's Talk Trio, and send us a message. I'd like to say a quick thank you to Amelia Castañeda, our producer, and a huge thank you to John Russell, our audio tech specialist. Honorary members of Let's Talk Trio are Scott Kendall and Roderick Chambers. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.